Apple acquires Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, a Christmas Carol musical. That's the headline on today's MBE Movie News.
That is the headline today on MBE Movie News, John. We were talking about this actually a few weeks ago.
Yes.
In regards to the news about Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds coming together. Obviously with the guys from Daddy's Home, Sean Anders and John Morris, who wrote and produced that film. Now, it's Apple who's acquiring it after a bidding war, which I'm actually quite happy to see, because we know that next month streaming channels galore is going to be happening. They're all kicking off, and it's good to see that they've got this acquisition, because two big names, a classic tale as well. It's been told a few times. We've talked about that before we came on air, John. What's your thoughts on this with Apple acquiring it? I think it's a good platform to put it on.
I think it's the perfect platform, Stephen. I'm not sure if there's a scope there for this, another retelling of this Charles Dickens story to go out and wide release in the theatres and garner enough audience coming in to make it a box office success. At least if it goes to a streaming platform like Apple TV Plus, then they can perhaps fudge the numbers if it doesn't do so well. And if it does very well, then it's just a feather in the cap for Apple and their new budding streaming service. I think it's promising for Apple TV Plus, Stephen, because it shows you they are opening up and widening the different variations of content that they're going for.
Exactly,
you spoke previously about this platform and how they were perhaps looking to single out film enthusiasts by bringing in studios, collaborations with studios like A24, doing work with Spielberg. I think who else was involved? I think M. Night Shyamalan, we spoke about him.
JJ as well.
JJ Abrams, I was about to say that, but I had to catch myself. I wasn't sure if I was talking nonsense. But they are collaborating with a whole host of renowned directors and studios. So it's nice to see that they're doing something different, because these guys will not do musical comedies based on a Christmas Carol.
Have you seen Ryan Reynolds sing? Because I haven't.
I've never seen Ryan Reynolds
seen
sing.
Will Ferrell sing.
He's not
too bad, but I've seen him sing. Unless he did something, well, he kind of did a little bit.
He may have done a bit of singing in Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But not in the scale you'd have in a musical.
Not in the genre, yeah.
I'm not entirely convinced, Stephen, he will be singing. I have to say, I think it will be Ferrell. I haven't not seen the Christmas Carol story in such a long time. Perhaps it's probably a Muppets Christmas, which I was absolutely obsessed about. I'd have to go back. I know there's a big singing and dancing sort of a sequence that frames around the going back in time. The Scrooge goes back and looks at the past,
the redemption as well,
and then the future. There's singing and dancing around that. So it would really depend on who's playing who. If I was to be a betting man, I'd say Ferrell's playing the Scrooge, and perhaps Ryan Reynolds is playing the Ghost of Christmas Past. Now, you perhaps know better than me who has the more meat and bones in terms of singing and dancing in that sort of a setup. Perhaps you don't.
Well, John, it depends. It depends what kind of road they get down, because if this is going to be an out-and-out musical, then there's going to be more, obviously, musical numbers. So it's very difficult to say. But it's a story that we've all seen different versions of it, John. I said to you before we came on, the first sort of hand I had in this story was the Albert Finney, Alec Guinness version, which felt like it was on for maybe about 5 hours. Clearly it wasn't, but just because you're that young, you know, it's trying to get your attention span. But it was something that always stayed with me. The last one I saw was the Jim Carrey one, Robert Zemeckis one from 10 years ago.
Incredible.
Which was obviously I think it was motion capture, wasn't it? It's kind of like that anyway, the very early stages of that.
That's the last one I've seen as well. I'm talking absolute nonsense.
It was, I've seen the Muppet one, but I can't remember it much other than Michael Caine was Scrooge in it, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, so it's a classic tale, and it's going to be very interesting to see how these two actors give it new life as well, because that's the main thing. I mean, it's no point going down the same road we've already been down before. I'd like to see a fresh take on this. Bill Murray did it with Scrooge. I thought that was a great version of the classic tale. It was sort of brought into the sort of modern era with a more mean businessman. You know, but taking the classic tale and keeping all the sort of you know, all the important elements of the story were still there, and all the meanings were still there as well, and the redemption was still there. So I'd like to see them get down that road. Whether they do or not, I don't know.
Yeah, it's absolutely paramount, Steve, with a classic story like this. When you're taking the work of a great man like Charles Dickens, it's absolutely key that you keep you keep the sentiment of the story, and you keep the meat and bones of that story firmly intact. But I think they're doing the right thing. and such a heavily adapted story like this to turn it into an out-and-out musical. I don't know if it's... I presume it's been done before in a theatre setting, perhaps Broadway or...
I still want
the
Hugh
West End in London.
and Jake Gyllenhaal in there as well.
Who's that? Oh yeah,
Hugh Jackman and
Christmas
jumpers on.
Well, maybe they can pop up. The cast has not been confirmed as of yet, Stephen. They do say that. They're still looking for a studio to perhaps make it. They have bid for the rights and won the rights to actually show it. So there's still time for that to happen. Perhaps we can get them in. But look, I'm excited for it. Seeing these two guys, whether they can sing or dance or not, Ryan Reynolds, I'm sure he can put his mind to it. He's a very talented chap. He's producing. He's a great actor. And we know he can lend his hand to comedic flair as well. So whatever happens, I'm sure it'll be a success. Good to see Apple jumping in there and claiming some more content, because they really have to fight tooth and nail to muscle into that streaming market. One thing for sure,
John, I don't think it'll be this Christmas. It'll be ready for anyway.
No, it'll be next Christmas,
so it'll be probably 2020. But we'll move on to our next article, John, which is a bit more matter of fact, something we already knew, but it's always good to see, the reason how these things come about. And obviously, this is in regards to Joe Pesci. Had to be coaxed into returning to acting for The Irishman. As we know, he's worked with likes of De Niro and Scorsese in the past. So I think, John, to be honest with you, before we get into the article itself, I don't think anyone out with Martin Scorsese would have been able to coax him out of retirement. It's been a long time since we've saw the great man. Loved his previous work. He does everything from serious to comedy, and some of the or one of the best comedies of the 1990s was obviously My Cousin Vinny. Such an iconic film, very under the radar at the time of its release as well. Obviously, Marissa Tomei won an Oscar for that performance as well.
Well, did she? That was controversy around that.
Well, I think she deserved it. I thought she was outstanding. Joe Pesci, on the other hand, I was always used to him playing the more serious roles, whether it be in a mob film, etc. Seeing him in Home Alone as well, playing another character, comedic, sort of sinister, one of the wet bandits. But it was good to see that he's come back out for this, which I think will be the sort of... I said this a few weeks ago, actually. This is going to be the last time I think we're going to see the collection of these actors with this great director. This is going to be a sort of swan song, if you like, for all of them all together in the one movie.
Yes, Steve, I completely agree with you. I don't think he would have come out of retirement for any other director other than Martin Scorsese. The fact he has worked with him on the likes of Raging Bull, Casino, Goodfellas, he's worked time and again, and he's worked with, I'm sure, the likes of De Niro and all and whatnot many times in his career. And the fact he did manage to assemble such an impressive cast with the likes of Pacino, Ray Romano, I think's in there, Harvey Keitel. The script must have been there. He's read the script. It's obviously attracted him. And by all accounts, from the initial reviews, they're all praising Joe Pesci in the main. They're saying he is the standout performer, which is incredible when you look at the array of talent around him. I'm not doing Joe Pesci. You nailed it, Stephen. The guy's such a multi-talented, a very nuanced actor. He can do so many different genres, so many different things.
It's funny,
very
John,
well.
I was just thinking there while you were talking that even when he's playing the more sort of sinister roles in the likes of Goodfellas, etc., there's always that underlining sense of humour in him as well, as dark as it is in those films. But he's always got that. He's always got that sort of comedic edge to him, regardless of the genre, if you like.
Well, you need that, Stephen. You need to have multiple things in a character. If it's just out and out anger and fury, I'm sure there's some people out there like that, but it's not really true to real life. Most human beings have got a mixture of emotions going on in there, and he just seems to be able to convey it beautifully. But the fact that he did manage to coax him back out of retirement, it's just a win-win for us. It's a win-win for the movie and the director, obviously Scorsese. He says, I think this is him in the quote, he says, yes, he was funny. I hung up on Marty 5 times, then Bob called me, obviously De Niro. I hung up on him 3 times, then everybody was calling me and I hung up on everybody. Then finally he said yes. So I think it speaks volumes. He was initially not so keen. He's probably been hammered and hammered and hammered. Said, look, you have to come, at least read the script. He's read it, and then he's bought into the movie, and what obviously Scorsese and the rest of the cast had obviously in the pipeline here with this great movie. Hopefully great. I've not seen it yet. Obviously it's not out on Netflix and it's not out in the theatres yet, so I can't speak about it. I think it'll be fantastic. And by all accounts, as I did say, Pesci, wonderful. So it was a great decision from him.
A lot of people, just on that subject, John, if it's released as well, some people comment why it's not getting a sort of wide release on the more sort of traditional cinemas and stuff like that. I think there's a rule, isn't there? There's a rule within cinemas and theatres worldwide, I think, with all studios, that they've got to have a certain amount of time.
Well, certainly in America, to qualify for an Oscar, I think it has to be out for at least 1 week in LA and
But I
New
mean
York.
distribution within theatres,
Distribution
John.
within theatres, or maybe.
I think there is got to be a limited time. It's say, I don't know what it is. It could be 3 months or something. I'm not sure. Netflix weren't having this. They didn't want that. They think they're Billy Big Boots and they don't have to go down that road. That's why I actually made the presumption it wouldn't be in the likes of Cineworld over here or Odeon or whatever. I don't know the equivalents, AMC over in the US, etc. I made the prediction probably our best bet would probably be the Glasgow Film Theatre, because I didn't see this getting a wide release, to be honest with you, because it's going to be released a few weeks later on the streaming platform anyway.
Yes, Stephen, and by all accounts, a lot of people who have seen it says it does feel like a 3.5 hour movie anyway, so perhaps for most people out there, it's probably best to wait till it comes on to Netflix anyway, but I sincerely hope I get the chance to pop along and watch it in a theatre.
It's a limited space, John, in that theatre that's in Glasgow in the city centre, but if we do get that opportunity, we'll obviously grasp it.
100%, Stephen. But look, I've not got much more to add. I'm delighted to see the guys back, and by all accounts, he's put in one of a career best performance, if you like.
Well, we're going to move on to blog rundown then, John. This part of the show where we discuss the latest movie reviews from our website, movieburnerentertainment.org.
Yes.
And the first one coming in is from our new writer. We'd like to welcome Peter Plumers.
Yeah, I think Plumbers, I'm not sure.
You can correct us, Peter. Who's right, John or Stephen?
He did try and give us a little tip on Twitter, but
I still couldn't get it.
I thought Plumbers. He said something about bird, plumber.
Yeah, so our 3 films today are all from Peter. And the first one coming in, John, is Asher from 2018, and this is directed by Michael Caton Jones. I know that name. And stars Ron Perlman, Famke Janssen, and Jacqueline Bisset.
Yes, well, first and foremost, I know that name, Ron Perlman, as well, Stephen, a brilliant actor. I've seen him in the likes of Sons of Anarchy and whatnot. Very, you talk about multifaceted actors, then he's a pretty damn multifaceted actor. And by all accounts, does a sterling job in this movie, according to Peter. Anyway, I haven't actually seen the movie, so I can't speak from personal experience. But by all accounts, he plays this sort of an ageing hitman type figure in a similar vein to the likes of what you've seen in Paul and whatnot, and John Wick. He's trying to get out of the game, and then he gets drawn back in, and he's just dabbling this existential question and loneliness and whatnot with should he remain in this game. He knows he's getting older. There's a younger generation coming up to replace him. He runs into Famke Janssen, and they spark off a little relationship, and apparently there's lots of black humour in there as well, so I think it sounds interesting. I've never heard of it, I can't lie.
Michael Caton Jones, John, the director, I do know him. I know his name because he directed, he's actually from Scotland, he's from West Lothian, and the reason I know him is because he directed Doc Hollywood, the Michael J. Fox film from 1991. I remember Michael J. Fox speaking very highly of him in his the book Lucky Man. So the name has kind of stuck with me. Famke Janssen in there as well, or Janssen. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. We obviously know her as obviously Jean Grey from the X-Men franchise, and obviously, I hate to say it, but basically she's the wife of Brian Mills in the Taken series because she's so underplayed and so underused as well in that franchise. I don't know how you feel about that, John, but that third film was
very much a Liam Neeson centred movie.
Yeah, but the way they dealt with her character was terrible. You know, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about this film, John. I do like the fact that Peter does compare Ron Perlman to Thanos. He does. He does look like him.
He does. He's got that jaw.
I think it's the jaw, isn't it? It certainly is.
He's got that Jimmy Hill chin.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. After what Star-Lord called it, but but I certainly wouldn't like to have that jaw. You know, but. It's a film, I think
though.
It's one of these reluctant hitman type things. He doesn't really get back into that sort of world, I'm assuming here as well, but Peter does say it's more pacing issues more than anything that sort of affects this film, which is, it doesn't really sort of kick on from the off, if you like, which is for a hitman film, it's quite. I think it's more a sort of relationship type film, but and which is a shame because you're getting that great poster there with Ron Perlman looking very cool, pointing the gun in the rain with an umbrella. It's not that tough, but you
Peter does say that
head of hair.
Peter does say that it's quite nonsensical in parts of this movie. He's standing in a corridor with I think it's the water system, the fire alarm system or whatever, getting off. And he's holding an umbrella, waiting on his target to come out. The only guy who comes out the door, apparently. But, Stephen, I think that's the correct thing to do with a movie like this. If you are casting the likes of Ron Perlman, he's in his 70s, he's an older chap, he's not got the legs that he once had, he's not got that youthful exuberance. You have to tone it back a bit and maybe make it more about the emotions. And
Sylvester Stallone's older than him.
Yeah, but he's kept himself in incredible shape, Sylvester. He's just, that guy's a devil in the gym, if you like.
Is it a film that you think you will go and seek out, John?
I don't know, because he does say it's a mediocre crime movie and that it has difficulties turning off the starting box or getting off the starting box. So I don't know, it's a difficult one. I don't know if I could divulge in perhaps 2 hours.
As much as you like Ron Perlman as an actor, yeah?
I like Ron Perlman as an actor, Stephen, very much so, but I pick and choose the roles that he picks. The likes of Hellboy and whatnot, the more notable roles I will dive into. But this one, I don't know. Frankie Janssen always rubbed me up the wrong way.
I think it was... No, I liked it. I actually liked it. Yeah. But
maybe it was that other chap who had a thing for her.
Oh, yeah.
I also forget his name. We call Jason Clarke Smug Chandler. He's incredibly smug. Is it Scott something? I think that's his name.
Well, that's the character's name, yeah. Can't remember his real name. But who cares? James Marsden, his name
James Marsden, that's the name.
Listen, we'll move on to our next review, John. It's again Peter, and it's called Look Away. It's a horror film from 2018, and it's directed by Asif Bernstein. Not sure how to pronounce that one.
Bernstein.
Yeah, and it stars India Elsie, Jason Isaacs, and Mira Sorvino.
Stephen, I have to say, this is a very interesting sounding movie as well. I like everything about the review, what Peter's managed to divulge in the review anyway about it. I don't know if he's went spoilerific, whether he's reined it back, but certainly from what I'm getting out of it, very intriguing, psychological. Again, looking at the introspective life of this very unhappy character. She seems to have it all in the superficially, surface level, very good
Dad's
looking
a bit
apparently.
of a git.
Dad, played by Jason Isaacs, is a bit of a git, yes. He's a sort of a plastic surgeon, if you like, and he's just emotionally bullying her and blackmailing her into submission, offering to do work on her for free for her 18th birthday. What a birthday present that is, Jason. You always wear a bit of a git, even in those Harry Potter movies, as Lucius Malfoy. I take that back, he's a good dude, I like Jason. But yeah, the movie sounds very interesting, I digress. It's got sort of a paranormal things going on as well. She looks in this mirror, sees a mirrored version of herself. A mirror, yes. And the name's flipped. He's right, it's very, very cool the way it flips the name. Now, her alter ego is called
just call her Hannah.
Yes.
Backwards, it's Hannah.
Yes. Well, look, I digress. It's very interesting, and he does say, I've said that about 50 times, but it's very hard to speak about a movie when you've not seen it. Thankfully, I've seen the last one on this blog rundown, but the fact that he says it goes all carry at the end.
Well, I was going to say that, John, even before Peter mentions that, when I was reading this, I just felt, this sounds a bit like Carrie. That's not a bad thing. I actually like the story of Carrie. I think it's
we were talking about that recently.
It's a good film. Even the remake with Chloe Grace Moretz, sorry.
Yes.
I think it was a good reboot of the film, a remake of the film. But this film intrigued me as well. Peter does mention that there doesn't seem to be much of an explanation on why the mirror is talking back to her. Her reflection is obviously its own thing. It's got its own name, but he does suggest that perhaps it could be, I think it's a noise or something like that, some kind of a sound or something like that, that sort of triggers it, that kind of suggests that it's something paranormal or something maybe scientific involved for this, obviously this thing to happen. But this film, on the other hand, I would like to see, because it does intrigue me. I do like this kind of, I like films where the main character's in this kind of predicament where they're very much the loner and they've not got any sort of connection to their parents. So when you get someone like that that's quite mousy when you have this alter ego, you can go...
Who's more out there.
You can go batshit crazy with that kind of character, you know, and I kind of like that. I like a character that doesn't have any restrictions or any emotional baggage.
It's almost like Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, exactly, John, exactly. So I'm
Hyde,
certainly interested in this film. If I can get hold of that, maybe on the streaming platforms, or perhaps even on Blu-ray on Amazon or whatever, certainly seek it out because I am interested in it. But we'll just move on to our final review this week, John, coming in from Peter once more. It's a trinity of reviews from our new writer here. It's The Dead Don't Die from this year, John, and it's the director Jim Jarmusch. Is that how you pronounce it?
Jarmusch, yes.
Yeah, and it stars Bill Murray, Adam Driver, and Tom Waits,
and a whole lot more. Steve Buscemi's in there.
Yeah,
and I think you're right, Tom Waits. And there's, I think, Chloe Sevigny as well. Is that what you call her? I think that's her name. Chloe something. She's in there. It's got a magnificent cast, Stephen. I did go and see this one at the time, so I can finally speak.
Tilda Swinton. I always remember the trailer for this. She's got a Scottish accent, hasn't she?
She is an oddity of a character in this movie, Stephen. Scottish. But as I will get into at the end of this...
Everyone who's Scottish is an oddity.
Yeah, just look at us. You're absolutely right, Stephen. But yeah, first and foremost, I find it fascinating that Peter actually had a chance to watch this in an open-air theatre. Yeah. That's something we would never in a million years dream of doing because we don't.
Closest I got to that, John, was in Crete in a bar, an open bar it was, watching Cool Runnings in 1993 on a pirate video on a very chunky television. Not the same thing.
It was going so well, Stephen. I thought that'd be very cool. Cool Runnings in Crete.
I've always wanted to try a drive-through or something like that, but we don't have the climate here to pull that off.
I was going to say that. We don't stay in Ljubljana, Stephen. Sadly not. It's not Slovenia, it's Scotland. It's a lot wetter and a lot windier. But by all accounts, very windy there as well. But yeah, Stephen, I agree with Peter in the main on this one. It's a strange film. The story is pretty much non-existent, but it is littered with just brilliantly executed dry humour. And he is a big fan of the Monty Python movies, much like myself, and that form of sarcastic dry wit and just the deadpan delivery. And it's there in spades with Bill Murray and Adam Driver. The two guys lead this movie magnificently and they just come off of each other beautifully. They've worked with Jim Jarmusch before, they get the guy's sense of humour and they elevate this movie to a higher standard than it really ought to be. But there's elements within there. I mean, I watched it and initially I thought, what the hell have I just watched? This is crazy. He's too on the nose with the themes, the way he's exploring it. Then the more and more I thought about it, that really didn't. I went down a rabbit hole thinking about this movie, Stephen, and I've got a whole theory about it. Yeah. I don't know if you want me to get into the theory.
Please do.
Hammering the consumerism and zombified masses and whatnot, and there was so much satire going on in there. And I've got my own theory. I don't know if Peter wants to perhaps comment what his theory is, if he's even got one, because a lot of people have watched this movie and says it's crap. What is he doing? He doesn't know what he's doing. Well, he knows what he's doing. Jim Jarmusch knows what he's doing, Stephen. On the nose satire, superficially, every character in this has a purpose for me. The zombies in this movie represent the brainwashed masses who are obsessed with consumerism and phones and Prosecco and whatnot. I can't actually remember the name of the bloody wine she says. God, what the hell is it called? It doesn't matter. But they're obsessed with materialistic things, these zombies. On the nose with that, that's basically him saying consumerism's killing the world. But they represent the brainwashed masses. Adam Driver, Bill Murray, they represent the woke humanity who are doing their best to fight through these masses and show them light, but in the end they fail. They can't beat the masses. Tilda Swinton, she represents religion. That's my view. She's like God. She represents religion. She disappears off in a spaceship in the movie. Superficially, that's just nonsense. No. But in terms of themes, she's representing religion dying in modern day society. How it can power through this, but it's failed. Yeah, there's so much going on. I digress. There's so much going on.
Listen, that's a good theory because Peter does mention the young ones in there, yes. And I always had the theory that they were such a dysfunctional family where Mike was the dad, Neil was the mother, and Vivian and Rick were the squabbling siblings. Yes. So it makes sense. Bill Murray and obviously Adam Driver in there as well, John. They are born to appear in films like these.
Iggy Pop's in there as well. I just seen it in
so
that
random.
Review. Yeah.
Adam Driver over the last few years has surprised me how funny he is. In that film, I always get the name wrong. John. The one.
Logan Lucky.
That's it. I always say Lucky Logan. Logan Lucky. He was such a star in that. And, you know, everyone that's sort of mainstream knows about Adam Driver will know him mostly, obviously, for his Star Wars role, which is very obviously dark and broody, etc. And taps off. Very wide looking. But I think the man is so funny. And he's a match, I would say, in these sort of situations, these sort of genres as well for Bill Murray. I think he's just got that right blend of humour. Very much like Harrison Ford, his on-screen dad in Star Wars. He's got that kind of killer sort of dark humour about him.
Seen it in Black Klansman as well.
Yeah.
Incredible as a Jewish guy having to infiltrate the Klan.
Yeah.
The Ku Klux Klan. You're right, Stephen. He's got great humour. He's just got that deadpan delivery. He has worked with Jarmusch before, as I did say. And the two of them just make the film, Stephen. All this nonsense aside about themes and satire, which I went down a rabbit hole with, which you can do in movies. Just superficially, it's a wacky film. There is elements within there that I don't like. The lack of gore, there's brief little splits of gore. But he's got this weird effect where it's like smoke or dust coming off when they decapitate the zombies. And it's just odd.
Okay.
So it's felt like a very PG thing going on there. But look, everything's deliberate with this director. He knows what he's doing. It's obviously just taking apart the classic horror tropes, the ridiculousness of the genre, and the shite acting, in a sense, of the genre. How everything's flat. It's deliberate in this movie. It's not shite in this movie. Very different movie. Very Marmite. I can see people watching it and thinking this is crazy and crap. But if you're into the humour like I am and like Peter is, you will love elements of this movie. If not the entire thing, you will love elements of it. And I would urge anybody who likes a Monty Python movie to give it a bash. He's right as well what he says at the bottom of the review, that he cannot believe this opened the Cannes Film Festival. I can just imagine some of the reactions of the patrons of the Cannes Film Festival, all dolled up with their fancy gear on. Yes, they'd have been absolutely appalled. What is going on here? What have I just watched?
It's film.
But they
it's all
won't
subjective.
boo it. They will not boo it like they boo the Netflix
It's all
movies.
subjective, John. But listen,
It is indeed.
that just brings us to the end of this edition of Movie Murder News, or MB Movie News it is, and the blog rundown. We'd just like to thank you once again for joining us, and we will be back again tomorrow with the Force Friday show.